This is the part of the show where we talk about scary things, weird, creepy, possibly paranormal experiences
I'm excited. I like it. It's just funny.
that we've all had.
It's like we
So this
just talked
time-
about a guy's ankle getting broken. Now it's like, all right, ghosts.
That's the fun of the show. That's the fun of the show, Nate.
I know.
Okay, so this time we'll start with you, Flutesy. Scary story.
I mean, well, it wasn't really scary so much, but it has to do with the paranormal, I guess. Basically, I was in a friend's place, and this said friend has a relative that it's gonna sound so crazy, but like is just like kind of brainwashed and like just removed from the family.
Mm-hmm.
So this family is very in tune, I guess, with like the paranormal, like kind of like spirit world and whatever. And then they decided to tell me that there used to be spirits living in their house. So the spirits would come in the form of like the lights flickering or like random knocks on doors and stuff, like just typical things that you would, I guess, hear about anyway. And so they hadn't experienced a ghost, if you will, for like a while. And then I show up. And so then the few times that I would visit at their house, the kitchen light would just flicker, right? And then we didn't put it together what it was. But apparently,
Did you know about all this before you went to the house?
Not quite. I knew a little bit about their like paranormal like ventures and stuff. That they kind of actively seek out
They're ghost
places, kind of, but like not for sport, just like they happen to, but also they happen to be also experiencing it. But anyway, so then I show up and we realize. There was a conversation that ensued that then we realized that the light was flickering again in the kitchen area. And that would always happen when that person was around, when that relative was around. So they've been trying to get this relative back into their life for like the last 7-8 years. And I only walked into their life maybe in the last like year or two. So it's been happening since. So one night I was at their house. And I decided, I was like, you know what, let me just talk to this spirit, you know? So the light was flickering a little bit, but then it had stopped. And then we were discussing the story of what happened, why this person left, or how they left, why they're not coming back. And anyway, so then I was listening. And in my mind, I was thinking to myself, well, let me like see if I could talk to this spirit. I don't know, playing into it, you know? So then I was thinking in my mind. And then finally, after they finished speaking, I said, well, out loud, I said, if you're here, you know, will this person return home? And then the light started flickering again, like immediately, like an answer to my question out loud. So that was really just weird, you know, because when you're in the moment, it's kind of like you don't expect that. And like how much of a coincidence is a coincidence? And it just depends on your view. I mean, like, I don't know you guys, like what you believe if you are tapped into that world and what your feelings are, but I never really was, I guess, kind of. So, but aside from that kind of experience, I don't know, it makes me think about it. It makes me think like maybe it's, and then like, you know, some water fell over, you know, randomly.
Did that person ever return home?
Not yet, because it's an ongoing process. So, but every time I seem to be around in the house, things like this start happening.
And it's mainly the flickering of the lights.
Mainly the flickering of the lights. Yeah.
Just in the kitchen.
Just in the kitchen. Whenever I'm in the kitchen. It's weird. It's really weird, but it could also be real.
Yeah. Have they had the
I guess.
electric checked
Yeah,
out
could just
in
be
the
a
kitchen?
loose neutral.
Yeah, but it doesn't happen when I'm not there. Like they would, you know, because part of the whole thing was that they were saying how it hadn't happened in a long time, actually. And then I show up and then it's kind of like, oh, like, I mean, look, you know, at the end of the day, I wouldn't say that I'm like this super religious being of like, you know, believing in God and whatever, but I am more spiritual. And I do believe that there are certain energies. I mean, we all are like, you know, we all have our energy about us. And like, and I do think that you cultivate the friends and the people in your life due to bonding on those energy levels, whether you realize it or not. So, I mean, I'm not apart from thinking that it could be a true and real thing. And maybe this person and myself, you know, there's some sort of connection there.
So that's why you think it only responded to you? Because there's a connection with you and the lost family member?
Yeah.
Your frequency in that?
I think so. I mean,
Fucking
according to the
creepy.
story and everything that I know. But yeah, I mean, it's speculation, you know? It's another one of those things that you can't really prove or disprove. And then you have all these people that, like you said, ghost hunters and people that go out there and try to figure it out. I don't know. I don't really close off anything in life. The possibility is there.
Did they ever use any sort of like ghost seeking equipment?
In the house?
Yeah.
That I don't know with 100% certainty. However, they did realize that the activity stopped when she left the house. So when the relative left the house, the activity stopped, and it only started again that we could readily notice because it was happening. Like at first when I came over for the first time, you know, the light was flickering, and it's like, oh, the kitchen light's flickering, whatever, you know. And then the second time I came over, I happened to notice the same thing, which is why I brought it up. And I said to them, hey, you know, are you guys going to get this checked out? Because in my mind, like much like what you had said, it's just like a disconnect somewhere. So I was like, your light is flickering in the kitchen. It's happening like every time I'm here. So I'm assuming it's just always happening. And they're like, wait, what? And I was like, what do you mean what? I'm like, you don't notice this? Like every time I'm in this kitchen, it's like flickering. And they're like, that doesn't happen. And then that's when we started piecing it together. And then that's when they revealed to me the whole thing about how there used to be activity when she was around, so on and so forth.
What's the connection between you and the person?
We are related,
Oh, okay.
but yeah, we're related.
Jeez.
So,
Also, on the skeptic side, the fact that they didn't realize that it was flickering until you mentioned it to them means that it's a slight thing that maybe it is happening more often and they're not realizing
maybe,
it.
but surely, I mean, I could always, you know, go back and ask them since, like, hey, have you noticed that the light's been flickering or anything like that? But at the time, they mentioned that it wasn't, that it hadn't happened.
Did you try to have any more conversations with it since it seemed to interact with you? Or
That
just
night?
that one question ever?
Well, I hadn't been back to the house since, so, but that night for sure it had happened, you know, the coincidence was like real.
So you didn't ask any other questions. It was just that one.
No, it was just the one. Because at the same time, like, I don't know how to do this, you know, like it's not something that I'm like actively researching and understanding in my life. So
Okay, cool.
just like a coincidence.
I'm interested to hear when
like
you
the follow up. Yeah.
find more
And now that
information
we're talking about it, actually, I'll follow up and see if they've noticed it since or whatever.
Okay,
Yeah.
your turn, Scott.
Fucking A. So, I mean, like because I went on an ayahuasca trip, and then you go like, well, is that like, what's the difference between paranormal and like what you would assume might be God or something, right? Like, what is the difference? It's just like
Are you asking me
the
that?
level of the shit. Yeah, it's like, right. So like paranormal is like often it's like lights or like a paranormal, like things that would happen to me. It's usually with radios, not changing or anything, but so every like birthday of like a relative's, like a lot of times the night before I'll have a dream of them, right? That's like what always happens. Like if they're dead, I have a lot of dead relatives. I like dreaming about them that night, and it's like, oh wow, my brain is pretty good at finding them in a dream when I need to, I guess. Like if I thought about them the day before, right? But on my father's birthday, the first year he was dead, I was listening to that Carpenter song, Why Do Birds Suddenly Appear, right? So I'm driving, and then like birds start circling around my car, like no bullshit, like while I'm driving. I'm like, that's fucking hilariously corny and weird, you know? Doesn't make any fucking sense. And my dad didn't like the Carpenters, and I don't think he did. And then that night, I'm listening to the song again, and it goes, why do birds suddenly appear? And obviously no birds. And then it's like, why do stars fall down from the sky? And a shooting star flew across the sky. I was like laying in my backyard, in my mother's backyard at night. I was like, that's fucking crazy that I listened to this song twice and those things matched up.
Yeah, and why are you listening to that song so many times?
I like corny ass shit. But that's the thing. It's like I would have never, there's no way my dad knows what, like he knew the song and was probably like, that's fucking shit and gay. But I like things like that. And so and when I like a song, I'll listen to it like for 4 days straight or whatever it may be. And that was the song I was listening to.
And that was, but you were sober. This is without the help
Yeah,
of...
this was a few years ago. I only started doing anything like a year and a half ago. So I never did anything.
And so
before
what's
that.
the weirdest experience that you've had while you were tripping?
So I went on an ayahuasca trip in May of this year in Joshua Tree. And, you get the idea is like you're going to kind of get answers That's why you take it. It's like you're gonna things will be revealed about yourself, stuff like that. So it was really cold in Joshua Tree, like freezing, and it's like the end of May. We should be sweating our asses off.
Are you like being Sherpa'd through it?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. There's like these people there. They're like just convicts. Like they're just clearly like in and out of jail, and then they live here, in the middle of the desert. And yeah, they guided us and stuff, but we were inside of this little dome, and it was like you can go outside, but it was freezing, so nobody went outside, and like too cold. It's the coldest I've maybe ever been. Like legitimately. And like, I mean, I've experienced winter in New York City, and it was May, freezing at night. And I'm like writing on a notepad, but it's all scribbles because I'm high on my mind. I don't know where I am. And there's all these scribbles. And then I look closely and it says, go outside. This is Dad. And no one was going outside because it was freezing out. So I was like, all right, motherfucker. So like I stand up and I grab there's blankets everywhere in the room. I grab like 4 blankets. I wrap them around myself and I go outside high out of my mind.
And the Carpenters are playing.
Yeah, right?
I fucking wish. And so I'm looking at like pieces of the mountains and stuff, and I'm like being told things with whispers, and then I'm looking and I'm like, yeah, but this is Dad. Like, so what's that? And it was like, there is no Dad, and it's like it's like from a fucking movie, and I was like, what? And then the sky, instead of the sun going down, it shut off like you would turn off the lights in a factory. So like it was like rows of lights shutting off, but it was the sky, and then like the sky was glitchy like a faulty computer, and it just like it kind of started telling me how like everything's a simulation, and it was super fucking trippy. And then I went back inside because it got like scary. I started getting scared, and I closed my eyes and I went through these like tunnels, like these, it was like futuristic pyramids almost. That's the only way I can explain it, like Egypt but in the future, like the Matrix but Egypt. Anyway. And then it was like do you want to know the rest? And it's like, yeah. And it's like, you are too young though. Like you're too young, but I'll tell you, but you are too young. And I was like, all right, then I don't want to know. And then I woke up.
Wow.
Yeah.
You woke up.
Well, I didn't wake up, but like I came out of the high. Like I was,
Uh-oh.
and I was also, this is like a 4-hour high. You're high for 4 hours and you don't know what the fuck, there's a lot of moments. Like I shrunk down into a child at one point and cried on my mother's lap. Like all this crazy shit
But
that
in your
would like
mind,
heal
though.
you. Yeah, in your mind.
You're
Well,
like-
but you're feeling like it's happening kind of. And then you're coming out of it. You're purging a lot, and it feels like every issue you've ever had
What was
coming
your?
out of your face.
Oh
It's
my
like the
God.
nicest
I
feeling
don't
in the
ever
world.
want to experience
No, it's a really
that.
nice
Yeah,
feeling.
that's what I was gonna ask.
Yeah,
what
you're
was your
not
overall
scared.
sense of being at the end of it?
It was like easily the greatest thing I've done. I should do it again. But then like the next day I had to be in LA for shows. And the whole idea is like, they're like, don't go back to the real world, immediately, because like you're not going to take everything with you. And that definitely happened. Where like I was told in it, it's like you have to eat strictly healthy, like you're killing yourself. And like the next day I was like eating healthy, and it felt like I couldn't even think about junk food. And then I'm in LA and it's like, we're having burgers, dude. It's 2 a.m.
Fall back to regular life.
And it's like, oh yeah, of course I'm gonna have some.
How long was the
Oh,
retreat?
wow.
So my girl went on it for 3 days, and on the second day she's like, you should come here for one night. So I stayed one night. It was just like a whole afternoon and night, and then up until the next.
So you're there
afternoon.
together?
24 hours. Yeah, we were there together. Yeah.
I imagine that helps. I'm so like these like DMT and ayahuasca. We talk about it all the time, but I'm such a baby
Non-stop.
with all drugs.
Yeah,
and
No, I
I'm
get that,
terrified.
but you should do that.
Yeah.
They have retreats, Shannon, where you go.
Yeah,
and
but
do-
there's always places where there's so many bugs.
I understand that, but also you do ayahuasca, and they also have like actual licensed therapists that
Yeah.
will like talk you through the trip the next
Yeah, that's
day,
what
and
these
then
people were kind of there for. Like they were very, accommodating, and they made sure you were safe, and they dressed in like white garb.
Oh my God.
So like the world just looks
Like you're
different.
dead.
It looks very biblical, like when you're walking around. I mean, it is Joshua Tree, so that's kind of biblical anyway. But things light up differently, like the way Jesus lights up in TV and movies and stuff. And so having these guides wearing like all white, it was like all very religious in a weird way.
I like it.
You got to do it.
Oh, no.
And I'm telling you, you don't feel like you're dying because it's just like some root that motherfuckers have, Actually, there was a moment when I started touching my head and I was like, oh, you guys poisoned me and you're convincing my body that I'm about to die.
That's
I knew I wasn't going to die, but when I started touching my skin, I'm like, my skin thinks I'm dead. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And so it's like, this is maybe what happens to you as you're dying. I don't know.